How do you get rid of ants in the garden organically? You don't want to use the toxic chemicals at the big box stores because anything that touches, including your vegetables or your herbs, is going into your food. Or it could be something where your kids or your pets or even you would be exposed to those same toxic chemicals that are going to make you sick long term. So what do? Ants are a huge pest in the garden, not necessarily to the plants themselves, but to us because they bite. Ants can actually be beneficial in the perspective of the plant because they are naturally aerating the soil. But we don't want them in places where we are managing because it's going to hurt and we don't want to get an overwhelming amount of bites. And so I've got 3 ways to tackle ants organically in the garden. The method in which you use is going to depend on your circumstance. The first method is diatomaceous earth. The benefit of using diatomaceous earth is that it is one of the least harmful products you can use in the garden. It's not going to affect pollinators. It's only going to affect the bugs that physically touch it on the ground surface. Diatomaceous earth is made of freshly ground diatoms. They're like tiny fossilized little creatures that live at the bottom of the ocean, and dried and powdered up turn into this very fine powder that acts as shards of glass to the exoskeletons of many ground-dwelling insects. It is so safe that you can even take it yourself as a cleanse. The drawback with using diatomaceous earth is it's not going to kill an entire ant colony. It might knock them back a little bit, but most likely it's going to take a couple of applications and it's probably just going to have the ant pile move to another spot. And if that works for you and they can just move to another spot and y'all can live harmoniously and symbiotically, then great. The next method that I like to use is boiling hot water. And this works great at killing the entire ant colony. And it's as simple as getting a boiling pot of water, taking it to the ant pile, and pouring it on there. And it might take 2 or 3 applications to really saturate the whole ant pile, but that will knock out and kill the ant pile. The only downside to using this boiling water method is that it's very labor intensive. And if you've got a large garden or a lot of space or a lot of ant piles that have to be taken down, it's going to be very tedious to bring boiling pots of water down one at a time and knock out this ant pile. So the next method I'm going to show you is going to be a little bit more wild, but it's going to be very effective at knocking out a bunch of different ant piles, and that is a torch.
Before we get into how to use a torch on an ant pile, it is very important that you look over general safety rules and precautions for managing this sort of fire. You do not want to take these precautions lightly, and I highly recommend that you check out the link below in the caption to review some basic fire safety before proceeding with this video and trying it yourself. Here are just some of the few safety precautions that I take when managing this torch. A lot of this may seem like common sense, but the very first thing I like to consider is to always do this in an open area away from anything that could catch fire or anything that is flammable.
This torch is going to come in 3 parts. There's 3 pieces, 3 materials that you need. The actual handheld torch, a small can of propane, and a lighter.
First, you're going to take the cap off of the propane tank and make sure you're aware of where you put that because you want to put it back on after use. And then you're going to attach the propane tank to the torch and make sure that it is very firm and tight. I cannot overemphasize the safety of this as you do not want any leakage. Turn your nozzle and you'll begin to hear some of the propane flowing through the torch, and use your lighter to turn on the torch. You will hear it obviously change when it has turned on. You'll need to disturb the ant pile and then take the torch to the ants and repeat that process over and over again, paying careful attention to if any ants are coming close to you, sneaking out, getting on your boots, getting inside your boots. This is a part where your awareness of your surroundings is extremely important for both the purpose of the torch, but also for watching the movement of the ants. You also want to be paying attention to any debris that's already decomposed and could catch on fire nearby. As you continue turning over the pile, you'll see less and less activity until they are all gone. I needed to do the same process in one of my beds where I was planning on planting some seeds. I created the line where I would be planting seeds until I located the ant pile, grabbed my torch, relit it, and then started doing the same process in this in-ground bed. This section was a little bit different because I wasn't able to remove as much of the soil as I was in just the pathways, because this is a hugelkultur bed. It's layered with logs and branches, and I didn't want to disturb it all the way. But the most important thing was that I could get rid of all of the ants that were in my way of sowing seeds. But I was diligent in making sure that all areas and surrounding areas of where I saw the ants were disturbed, and if there were presence of ants, I would use the torch. When the work is complete, you want to make sure that you turn off the nozzle all the way to the right and wait for an extended period of time to ensure that all propane has completely stopped flowing through the torch and that there is no flame left. This process can take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes just to be safe. After you are certain that the propane is completely shut off, you can disconnect all parts, put the top on top of the propane, and store everything until you need to use it next time. You can use the torch in any areas from gravel to raised beds to walkways. You just want to be mindful that anything it touches, including plants, will get torched as well. And we will cover a way to use the torch for weeds in a separate video, so stay tuned.